Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Basketball Bulletin. An exciting day around the NBA as well as around basketball in general. Now we've got college stuff really getting going. I'm Trevor Lane. Happy to have y'all here. We decided to do a little live stream here today, a little bit of an impromptu live stream. We had intended on recording some stuff and figured, you know what? Let's just go live. We haven't done one of these in a bit and talk about it. Joining me is Donnie Freeman. Donnie, how you doing?
Doing pretty good, man. What about you?
Hanging in there. You know, obviously, big game tonight. Our Lakers taking on the Celtics. That's going to be an exciting one, I think. I can't tell you, Donnie. I am more disappointed about the absence, he is now listed as doubtful, of Jackson Hayes than I ever expected that I would be. But I think that's actually a huge loss for the Lakers heading into tonight's game.
Yeah, Jackson Hayes is the epitome of that meme where it's like accidentally became important at work and it's ruining my life because all of a sudden Jackson Hayes, it's like, man, we need him. But he's been awesome. He's been really, really good out there. And he's taken it to another level. And I like the way that he's been used and deployed out there. Last game he started on Hart and Josh Hart out there last game, and JJ does some fun stuff with him. So he's cool.
Yeah. Well, and I think particularly in this matchup, you know, normally, okay, Hayes is out. Well, you would turn to Rui Hachimura. He's out. Okay, what about Trey Jemison? Could he absorb some minutes there? What about Alex Len? Do they dust him off? The problem is this isn't the matchup for it. The problem is the Celtics play 5 out. Jackson Hayes is somewhat uniquely suited on this team to be able to cover on the perimeter, have that kind of agility that's necessary to get out on the perimeter guys and contest the three while still providing a little bit of size on the floor. That's not true of Trey Jemison. That's not true of Alex Len. And so the Lakers, I think they're going to have to play a lot of small ball in this one. And unfortunately, I think Jackson Hayes is pivotal. I don't think that this means the matchup is over or anything like that, but that's a big loss for LA.
You just ruined my night talking about.
I'm sorry. All it means is the Lakers' eventual victory will be that much more impressive. That's what that means, Donnie.
Yeah, hopefully, because Alex Len, man, oh my God. Do you know if maybe Koloko got the call up? That would be nice.
I haven't seen anything on that yet. We'll see before the game. If he did, I would hope that they did, because he is a bit quicker, certainly quicker than Jemison, and obviously quicker than Alex Len. So I think we are going to see, as Young Nation said, LeBron might have to play center. Yeah, I do. I think we're going to see a lot of LeBron at the center position in this one tonight.
Yeah, that'll happen. It's just Rui is like so important to this team because of the way this team likes to play. They do a lot of small ball looks. And then also one thing that I think has been missing was, and we still won the games regardless, but that extra offensive punch you get from Rui, his versatility defending up in terms of like the way he can defend, you know, in the post, things like that. That's helpful. And then just the length he has having all those long arms out there. That's become a bit of our hallmark for us. So typically we were running those lineups a lot. Whenever we wouldn't go to Hayes, it wouldn't really be Jemison out there. So just, I think missing both of those guys really does limit the team's optionality, and LeBron's going to have to play a lot of center. I mean, he basically played center all game last game. So
yeah. I mean, he was guarding Towns the entire game. So minutes. I think we were going to see a decent amount of that anyway. But then, like, okay, when LeBron's out, who's the center? Yeah. It's going to have to be Dorian Finney-Smith.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, I wonder what they're going to do there. Is it just going to be Jemison in those minutes? Does JJ actually go to Len in this game? Maybe he gives him one stint, and if it doesn't go good, doesn't go back to him.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe.
This is just not the matchup for him.
He doesn't have the matchup. That's the problem. It's not the match. Jemison can certainly add some physicality, but it's not the matchup. I think we see a lot of Vando at the 5 as well.
Oh,
and that's good. That's what we'll also see. Anyway, you know, Donnie, obviously we've got plenty going on around the NBA and all that. And of course, we're going to get a lot of questions, comments coming in that are Lakers related. So I'm sure we'll talk about plenty of this kind of stuff. But I've yet to get your opinion on all this Stephen A. Smith versus LeBron stuff, the Charles Barkley stuff, the Kendrick Perkins stuff, all this stuff. It feels like suddenly, ever since LeBron kind of fired back or pushed back at media in relation to Anthony Edwards, what was that, about a week and a half ago? Suddenly we're getting all of this firestorm of stuff going on between media versus players and just all kinds of mess. So what are some of your thoughts? Because we haven't had a chance to discuss this yet.
Yeah, my first thought is it's funny that this all happened like as a result of LeBron saying that stuff, which is it's basically him being proven right in real time as he talks about the way the game is covered, etc. As an offshoot of the face of the league stuff, he had that whole thread where he was like, yeah, it just basically comes down to the way the game is covered, and more or less that's what it's been. So it's kind of all over the place. On the Charles piece, I kind of agree. We could talk more about other teams. They should talk more about other teams. They only talk about the Warriors, all that stuff. I understand why that's the case, because those are two of the more popular teams. The Lakers specifically have been historically great. Like, I get it. Like, obviously they're going to jump at the chance to talk about the Lakers and Steph's team, and but I think where other teams deserve a little bit more respect is like, do we really need to have the Jordan LeBron debate every other day? Do we really do we need to do this stuff? Can we not cover, like the Kings? Like, I'm not really trying to like toot their horn, but they're like 7-3 in their last 10. Okay, let's talk about that a little bit, the way they've been playing recently. Oh, Giannis just hit like what, 20K points? No, they didn't really talk about that like at all. Like period. Like, they didn't really care about it.
Right.
Speaking of them, aren't they like 8-2 in their last 10? Like,
yeah, they've been winning
some of that other stuff, or do we need to talk about the same stuff day in, day out? Oh, reliable. So I do get that piece of it, but at the same time, I do think he's pretty bitter towards the Lakers. Like, I mean, he said they've been good for 2 weeks. It's been closer to 2 months than 2 weeks.
It has been. Like, it's been almost 2 months.
I'm not really sure where that's with it. Like, he couldn't. He was like, oh, I don't mind being wrong, but like, you could just say I don't mind being wrong. Like, okay,
just stop right there. Just stop.
Right,
oh yeah. Joker going a 30-20-20 game. First time that's ever happened. I mean, that was unreal. There has been some talk about that. But there won't, like, I'll tell you what, if LeBron drops 30, 15, and 10, a triple double, there's probably more talk about that than a Joker 30-20-20 game.
Regardless of what happens in this game, I'm positive this is going to get most of the media coverage in terms of NBA stuff. Like, they're not going to talk about Joker having a historical game. Like, they're not really going to cover that. You may get some of the lesser guys talking about it, but like First Take isn't really going to cover it that much. But FS1 probably not going to cover it too. But on the other piece of it, the Stephen A stuff. So, like, again, I kind of get the idea. Bronny's in the NBA. Criticism of Bronny is fair play, I think. I think that's perfectly fine.
Sure.
Like, that's okay. But I think where you may cross a bit of a line is where you go out there and you're like, oh, LeBron as a father, this and that, to where that could be taken as a slight to him being a father. Like, you can't really criticize him on that. Like, regardless of how you feel about it, you feel Bronny deserves this opportunity, doesn't deserve it, blah, blah, blah. Okay, whatever, right? Which, by the way, Bronny's been amazing. The sad thing about it is
he's been great in the G League.
And he's been up 22, 5-5. You compare that to other guys in a similar area, they're all underperforming, haven't really got NBA opportunities. Bronny had one opportunity that sparked all this stuff, which was it was bad, sure, but they kind of turned to him because they needed a body, and it didn't look good. Okay, that's fine. Every team does that. But you don't hear anything about anybody else in this draft class at all. Like, when's the last time ESPN talked about the first 5 picks?
About Zach Reese-Shea, the number 1 pick.
Nobody.
Nothing. Alex Sarr. Nothing. I mean, he's on the Wizards, but still, yeah, you're not hearing much about this draft class.
They only cover Bronny because he's LeBron's son, and he's Bronny himself. Bronny himself is a celebrity, so like that's they know what they're doing. So regardless, the criticisms and regardless of how you feel about it of his parenting, I don't think were warranted. And I didn't really like how he tried to play kind of like victim. I don't know, like sympathy afterwards, where he's like, I'm so sad about this and all this stuff. I wasn't even going to talk about this. Did you see Kevin Love quote him? He's like, oh, you weren't going to do this?
Yeah, that was
like,
bullshit.
Come on.
That was bullshit. The whole, I'm so disappointed. I wasn't going to say anything about it. That is not true. That is 100% not true. Like I said he was skipping on his way to ESPN. He had to be so excited to get to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, he said, we could have talked about this 40-point game, but we got to talk about this instead.
Right.
And he talked about it on his podcast, too. He gave a little bit more info. He said, some guys were really upset about his comments on Bronny like a month and a half ago in that Philly game.
Draymond won't talk to him anymore, right?
And Draymond's got his own thing going on where the cat thing came out, and Draymond basically, as a response to it, because he was saying that Cat ducked Jimmy, I believe, in that game.
Oh, that was bad.
Yeah. And
that
then
was
he's
bad.
like, they told him, like, did you know Cat lost a family member? He's like, oh, that sucks. I'm sorry to hear that, but the Draymond Green show will keep going. Like, bro, what the hell are you doing?
And he tried to dismiss it as, well, hey, we're all going to die someday, and everybody loses people and all this kind of stuff. Like, man, you screwed up. just apologize, right? Just apologize. You screwed up. I didn't know that. I spoke, and I spoke before, knowing exactly what was going on.
He said, what
he
I
was
heard
listed as out for. That's why I'm always careful with personal reason stuff, because you never know what a person's out for. Sometimes it's a good thing. Hey, they're having a kid, and we didn't know about that. But a lot of times it's not. And when a guy's listed as out for personal reasons, you always want to be sympathetic there. Draymond took it as an opportunity to take shots at the man. To take shots at him and saying that he was trying to duck somebody, trying to duck Jimmy Butler. It was irresponsible. But then look, if you mess up like that, just admit it. Just admit that you mess up and apologize and say, I'm sorry, and go on. And instead of that half-hearted BS apology, that was awful.
That was terrible. So I don't really mess with Draymond in general, but he also isn't talking to Stephen A. So it's just a lot of drama over the last week, just in general.
Really? Yeah. A lot of drama over the last week. And you look at the whole situation with LeBron and Stephen A. Like, I get LeBron being upset about what was being said. Look, if Stephen A. had come out and said, Bronny is not ready to play in the NBA. This was after that loss to the 76ers, by the way. Mm-hmm. And Bronny got put on Tyrese Maxey, and he got cooked. Like, there's no denying it. Tyrese went right after him, and Bronny had no shot. Bronny's been great in the G League. I think Bronny has made real development in the G League, but you could tell he's not NBA ready. If Stephen A. and anybody else want to come on and say, see, this is proof Bronny's not NBA ready. Well, let's face it, Tyrese Maxey is a very difficult cover. But nonetheless, yes, you're probably right, and you have a leg to stand on there. But would you come out and you say that this is evidence that LeBron is a bad parent? That's essentially what Stephen A. was getting to, right? Because he didn't say Bronny needs growth and development. He didn't say Bronny needs to continue to get better. He threw it into an area of, as a father, why are you doing this? And overly dramatic, and as though he's putting his son in harm's way or anything, while completely removing the context. This is what pissed me off. He completely removed the context of the situation. The Lakers were on the second night of a back-to-back. They had a ton of injuries, and so a dude that's at the end of their bench got an opportunity. Whether it's Bronny James or not, that happens all the time, all season, throughout the NBA. But because it's Bronny James, it became, this is a problem, that the dude at the end of the bench that's been doing very well in the G League suddenly got an opportunity in the NBA. A lot of those guys struggle when they get an NBA opportunity, but the guy at the end of the bench getting that shot is not a big deal. Because it's Bronny James suddenly became a big deal. And what it devolved into was a lot of people acting as though, see, this is proof that he shouldn't be on an NBA court. What are we talking about? He's not on an NBA court. Unless it's garbage time, that's it. He's not really playing NBA games. He's doing most of his development in South Bay. And what was being pushed was as though LeBron is forcing Bronny into the Lakers lineup somehow, or something like that. And that's where people who aren't paying attention, who are more casuals, who just want to see a flashy headline and get mad about something, it's just rage bait. And that was what was upsetting to me, was that they provided no context and just immediately went to LeBron's a bad dad. So I don't blame LeBron for getting upset about what happened. I don't blame him for getting upset about what happened or confronting Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A., he could have called me, he could have done all this kind of stuff.
He always says on ESPN, like, I'm always at the games, they know where to find me, this and that. But the one time it happens, he's like, this could have been private.
Because now that it's public, I mean, could you imagine if you were Stephen A. and LeBron comes up to you like that? You got to be just fist pumping, right? Right after that, you got to be thinking, oh my God, I can talk about this for a week and all the attention's going to be on me. And this is awesome. There's no way that he was really upset that it didn't happen behind closed doors.
Right. Yeah. That's just so crazy to me. And, the thing about it is, I think is that on the Bronny piece, it's just confirmation bias because it's for the people that don't follow Bronny or don't like the Lakers, or most importantly, don't like LeBron or anything associated with him, which obviously stems to Bronny. And they feel like Bronny has been forced into the league, forced just in general, wasn't an NBA quality talent or anything like that, a prospect. It's confirmation bias when you do something like that for those people, and context doesn't matter. They're just like, see, this and that. He should have never had this opportunity. And then they spin it to where, Bronny is being done some type of huge wrong because his dad forced him in because, he wanted this legacy moment and this and that. I feel bad for Bronny. Bronny is a grown man. right? He doesn't even have to play ball. He is set for
No.
life. He
Yep.
has his own things he was good in. He almost died, and he loves the game so much that he still is trying to improve and play at the highest level. And the thing that's annoying about that is he had pedigree prior to the heart thing. Like, he was coming out of high school, he was a great prospect, was being projected to be a lottery pick. And he's just now getting his confidence back after a cardiac arrest, I believe.
Yeah, cardiac
Just
arrest.
now getting his confidence back, and you can see it when he steps out there now. He's not looking as timid whenever he does get garbage time minutes. He's putting up some of these big shots, and he's playing a certain kind of way to where there may be something there, like legit. And people feel really like, some kind of way about it. So it is confirmation bias. And like I said, he's the 55th freaking pick. Like, what are you expecting from the 55th pick of the draft?
Exactly. As Joseph notes, he averages 21, 5 and 5 in the G League. Compare that to pick 57, 56, 58, right? These guys are all doing worse than Bronny in the G League. You could argue right now that he was the best player available. And I always go back to this, Donnie. I always go back to this with the whole Bronny situation. People don't understand. There are players at 50 in the second round, at 50, at 45, that are telling teams, don't draft me. There are players at that stage of the draft requesting to not be drafted because they want to steer their destination through free agency. So it's not even like you could say, oh, the Lakers burned the 55th pick. A lot of dudes at that level of the draft don't care about hearing their name called. They just want to get to a specific team. Did they really burn a draft pick? No, it didn't really cost them anything because whoever else they could have got at 55, they could have got right after the draft anyway. Players are legitimately trying to dissuade teams from drafting them at that stage of the draft. That's a thing that really happens. If you want to be mad about anything that has to do with the whole Bronny situation, don't be mad at LeBron. Don't be mad at the fact that he got drafted. You look at what he's doing with the G League. I think it more than legitimizes his pick. If you want to be mad about anything, you can be mad that he's got a full roster spot. Be mad that he's got a full roster spot instead of being on a two-way contract. And maybe that's a little bit of Bronny being Bronny. But you know what? Maxwell Lewis got a full roster spot too. Maxwell Lewis got almost the exact same contract that Bronny got. People want to turn that into something too. They want to turn it into Bronny's contract is unheard of for second-round picks. No, the Lakers legitimately had another player on the roster that was picked in the second round the year before that got the same damn contract. So people want to spin this any way they can, but you want to be upset about something, be upset that he took up a roster spot and isn't on a two-way, but that's about it. That's the only thing you can really be upset about. He's an end-of-the-bench guy. He's a kid that's worked hard, that's done remarkably well in the spotlight, and I think it's crazy that people want to turn this into LeBron is a bad father, and I don't blame LeBron for being mad about that, especially when it was presented without all the context that I just provided.
Yeah, absolutely. The last thing I'll say on it is that it's been very split from what I've seen in terms of the way LeBron handled it, like so publicly. Do you have a problem with him doing that, or do you think he should have tried behind closed doors? I think that's like, for me personally, I would have just approached him. Like, I see him there, I'm gonna just approach him. Like,
well,
I'm gonna ask. I'm gonna be like, "Yo, what's up? Like, why are you doing this?" But other people are different. They would want to handle it maybe a certain way, right? So
I don't know. I'll say that. I don't know because what I'm wondering is, did LeBron specifically decide next time I see this dude, I'm gonna have some words for him? Was this premeditated, or was it more this bothered LeBron but whatever, it's media. LeBron hears stuff from media all the time. And then LeBron saw him and he went, oh yeah, this guy said this stuff. I'm going to go have words. I don't think the moment?
I think he probably was like, next time I see him, that sounds more LeBron to me. Because he's very calculated. So I think he knew.
Sure. And so I don't necessarily have a problem with it, especially when it's his kid.
Right.
When it's his kid, like that's a different topic, right?
Right. Like, well, the thing is like, my thing is like, why would I handle that privately? Why would I handle it privately when you didn't handle your criticisms privately?
Right.
It was public in the first place.
He made it very public.
Like, why would I approach you privately? That doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
So yeah, it's just a weird situation. But I've seen people online very split about that specific part of it. But people had their cameras out, so I'm sure that it wasn't a very long interaction. I'm sure they weren't expecting to get caught, but you should always be expecting it. So
Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's go here. We've got another super chat coming in. KD and JaVale both had their moms defend them. Nobody said anything, and they were both grown men. The media won't take responsibility for cruelty. I mean, I don't know. Like, how do you want to spin that?
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe it's the fact that people don't some people have said like Bronny could defend himself. I mean, I don't care how old my kid is. I'm going to say something.
Personally. Right. Yeah. I mean, that's so turning this into like, oh, Bronny's a grown man. LeBron shouldn't have to defend him. Like, it's your kid. I think if you're a parent, you and I are both parents.
Yeah.
Like, we understand. If it's my kid, I don't care if I'm 65 years old. Like, I'm gonna have a problem if somebody is saying stuff or talking out of turn like this involving about my kid. Like, I'm gonna have issues with that. I'm gonna have something to say with that. And I think that's just that natural parenting instinct that's going to come in, and specifically because LeBron as a parent was getting his job as a parent was being thrown into question.
That's the thing too, is like, I don't think if he just said Bronny isn't ready and kept it to that type of talk, I don't think LeBron says anything to him. I don't think he says anything to him, because I don't think LeBron cares about that, because LeBron hears so many different things about himself on a daily basis since he was 18 years old or younger. They've always said everything about him. Like, I'm sure the dude has thick skin when it comes to the media, because he very, 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 very rarely talks about them or talks to them in any way, shape, or form. Like, I don't think he's ever acknowledged Skip, who made an entire career from when he was young, like 20, 21 years old, just basically on hating LeBron. I think what got LeBron was the parenting stuff. Like, don't just leave my kid out of it. Like, why you got to bring up all that? Like, so I don't think he would have cared if it was just Bronny's not good, not ready, blah, blah, blah. That's fine.
I've got the Stephen A. was professional when it happened. Dennis said, and other players have been fined and suspended for approaching media and doing this. Cousins got suspended. I don't recall what happened with Cousins, what he got suspended for. I know we had the situation with Embiid with media earlier on in the year, but Embiid he actually like kind of pushed a guy. But that was also and that was also during a media session. That was when the player's supposed to be available for media. This is, in between quarters during a game here is when this happened. And I don't know. And was Stephen A. there as credentialed media for that game, or was he there just watching the game? The fact that he was sitting in the front row tells me he was not there on a media credential in that capacity. So it is a bit of a different situation, a media availability session for a credentialed reporter versus somebody who's there in that capacity. Stephen is there as a fan watching the game when he's just sitting in the front row there.
He loves the Knicks. That's his team.
That's it. So it's also different because of that situation there. And again, it was not physical. So, all right, let's go here. Benefactum said, on top of everything you guys said, name me a man whose kid almost died, is fortunate enough to live, family dreams together, wouldn't take it. Yeah, I mean, that context obviously matters too. Bronny almost dying. I mean, legit having a cardiac arrest. So
last year, right?
Yeah.
Was that last year?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It was crazy. It was crazy. Okay, let me get to this. Buck Foston. That's the thought process of a lot of Lakers fans right now. A lot of Lakers fans right now. No, but that's what a lot of Lakers fans are feeling right now. But Donnie, the other thing I wanted to get into, you talked about Charles, his criticism of the way the NBA is covered and all that. Which funny is that he's part of that, right? Like,
right.
He's part of all that and the way the league is covered. And he's most known for talking crap about the Lakers, and that's what he's really getting a lot of notoriety for. But I did want to talk about how exciting some of the playoff races are right now, because there are a lot of very, very close ones. I think the unfortunate thing, and this is why when people say, why is everybody talking about the Lakers? Well, part of it is obviously they got Luka. That's obviously a big part of it.
Yeah,
but also, if you look, they've actually got a lot on the line right now in terms of their playoff race. Whereas right now, the Celtics, the Cavs, they have nothing on the line in their playoff races. The Thunder, you talk about, why don't we talk more about the Cavs? Why don't we talk more about the Thunder? They have nothing on the line right now. They're locked in. The Cavs have locked in a playoff seed already. They're 8 games up on Boston. We all know what's happening here. Nobody is catching the Cavs in the playoffs. or in terms of the standings. Nobody's catching the Thunder. They've got an 11-game lead. They're locked in to the 1 seed. There's not that dynamic to it. You look at the Lakers, you look at the Nuggets, they're neck and neck right now. That's why I think part of why some of these teams are getting covered. There's the added drama of an actual playoff positioning race here, whereas the Thunder, the Cavs, and even the Celtics, I think, are not at risk of moving at all in the standings.
Yeah, no, that's true. And then, but the reality also still exists that they know who to talk about and who not to talk about for ratings. Like that's largely, I think, the most important thing. But they just go out of their way not to talk about certain teams. Like they just don't cover the entire league. And I don't know that they watch a lot of the games.
Yeah, and well, I think they probably don't. And to be fair, it is difficult to watch every single game, right? Yeah. To watch all the games. That's not easy, but you need to watch some basketball too, right? In order to do this. And I think it all comes back to the whole just constantly complaining about the league thing.
Yeah.
If you're constantly talking down about teams, talking bad about this era of basketball and just complaining about it, which, by the way, I think this era of basketball is great and doesn't get enough credit for how good it actually is. But if all you're doing is nitpicking and complaining about things because it doesn't look like the game looked like when you played it, and it doesn't at all, that's not going to help anything. That's not going to help the perception of the league when you're constantly talking bad about it. So you may say, oh, well, the coverage should include more about the Thunder, should include more about the Cavs and all that. Well, we know why, because of the way viewership goes and the way ratings go when you're talking about the Lakers versus talking about those teams or the Warriors or any of those other clubs. But on top of that, the whole concept of, well, we need to talk about this team over that team, or we're just going to complain about the way the game is played today. I don't know. You need to speak more positively in general about the game. And that includes the Lakers. You can't just say the Lakers stink all the time just to get notoriety, just to get attention. You need to look at what are the positive things that they're doing, what's impressive about what they're doing, and how does that excite viewers and draw people into the game as well. I don't think you can just complain, oh, we don't cover the game the right way, while at the same time complaining that today's game isn't any good.
Right. Yeah, I don't know that he's thought that fully through. So
Sky Falcon. Chuck wants to talk Cavs, but can't name half their roster.
That's probably true.
It's probably true. It's probably true. Okay, let me look at some of these playoff races. First of all, Donnie, it seems like we're starting to get separation in the West, and this might close, but right now it seems like it's Lakers versus Nuggets for 2-3. It was a big group. Lakers, Nuggets, Grizz, Rockets for 2 through 5. Now we're getting some separation, and it looks like it's Grizz versus Rockets for 4-5, Lakers, Nuggets for 2-3. Again, that gap can close. There is enough time left for that gap to close a bit, but that seems to be the way this is headed. Who do you like to get the 2, and who do you like to get the 4 seed in those contests?
For the record, I think 2 through 5 is still very much in the air. Like a couple game losing streak will have you right back down to the pack if you're LA
True.
or the Denver Nuggets. Like that's not very hard to do. You've got to keep pace. But for 2, the Lakers, I would love to see them stay there, but they've got such a hard schedule. They got so many games where they're going to be resting guys with all those back-to-backs. I wouldn't be surprised if they slid a slot.
Mm-hmm.
And then for 4, it's pick your poison with Memphis and the Rockets right there, because they're both kind of just up and down. I would like to say that Memphis holds, so we'll see what happens. Is there any possibility? I mean, they're only a few games back. Does Golden State wind up going up there? Do they have any matchups against these teams? Or
the problem is, what is there? 30 games left for most of these teams, something like that.
20?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, 20. 20 games left, not 30. 30 games left. There would be plenty of time. 20 games left, some 19. That's tough. Yeah. That's tough to make up that kind of ground, because you're not going to lose every game and you're not going to win every game. But Golden State does have a particularly easy schedule from here on out. So maybe it's not out of the question, but I think the West, the top 6, probably finishes as it is now. We'll see. Minnesota has almost the easiest schedule remaining in the NBA. So 6, 7, who gets in the play-in and who is a playoff team, that could be an interesting battle between the Warriors and right now the Wolves. Maybe the Clippers can get into the mix there. But I tend to think we're probably going to see, I agree with you. I think ultimately the Nuggets take the 2 seed. It's not because I don't think the Lakers can. It's because I don't think the Lakers should. I don't think they should. Now, look, if it's there, of course, take it. But I don't think the Lakers should go out of their way to play LeBron, Luka every game this month in an insane month, just jam-packed with games.
Yeah, absolutely. Main said the Nuggets schedule is harder. They have the same opponent win percentage, basically. It's separated by like 1%. So they're basically the same schedule.
Right. Yeah. It's literally 0.01% difference when we look at strength of schedule.
My bad.
between the Nuggets and the Lakers. So a very, very close schedule between the two. But the difference for me is the Lakers have more back-to-backs coming up. I believe. And I took a look at this today on the pod. Denver's back-to-backs. They're all back-to-backs where it's really easy to rest guys on the second night because it's like they have, like one of them, it's the Wizards is their second game in that. Like, okay, you can rest guys and still win that game.
Yeah. And I expect both of these teams' strength of schedule to go down in about a week or so by a lot after they play each other, right? So that's going to matter. But those are going to be pivotal games. Like those games may determine what happens between these two teams,
absolutely,
wise, because they've got two games. And unfortunately, the Lakers are in a bad spot. Isn't one of those in the first night and the other one the second night of a back-to-back?
Yeah, so. For Denver. And it was set up, Donnie, originally before they moved games around because of the fires. It was set up where Denver was the second night of the back-to-back both times.
Oof.
And then they flipped it. They moved Milwaukee to the other side of the Denver game, the set in LA. It's been a weird schedule where you have the Lakers played twice in 1 week. Before the schedule was shifted due to the fires, twice in 1 week, they played Milwaukee and then Denver back-to-back. And then they added another back-to-back in between those two sets with the San Antonio game getting squeezed in there. But it's not just the Lakers experiencing this season. We're seeing a lot of teams where you're playing most of your games against one team in the same week in a very short window. The Lakers played the Kings 3 times in a week. That I get cutting down travel, and I think that is very much important. But I wish there was a way to avoid that, because then, like, if you have a guy out, then you basically that team doesn't have to play against a top player for the entirety of their matchups against that club for that season. And I don't think that's ideal.
Yeah, I don't know if I just wasn't paying attention before, but this, if I am right, feels like it's a remnant from those 2020-21 seasons where they were trying to limit all the travel.
Yeah.
But they've just kind of kept it going, and it sucks. Like, I don't like it at all.
No.
It's good and it's bad for the travel piece, but I don't like it for what you were just mentioning.
Easy Peasy said, will Boston keep their team together because of the salary cap? I think as long as they keep winning, they will. But yeah, now we're hitting where those extra punitive measures as part of the new CBA come into play, right? Where Boston continues to stay above that second-tier apron, and their pick 7 years from now is frozen. Their pick 7 years from now automatically moves to the back of the first round. Teams don't like that. Teams look at like 3-year windows, sometimes 5-year windows, and they try to build teams off of that. Like, more and more with the way player turnover is in today's NBA, the teams are looking to build in shorter segments. So they have no idea what the hell everything's going to look like 7 years from now. And so having your pick automatically go to the back of the first round, no matter what you do record-wise, that's a very scary thing when you could really need that pick. So could Boston actually sell off some players and drop below that second-tier apron in order to reset the counter? Maybe, but I tend to think if they keep winning, they will bite the bullet and continue to do it. But look, this is part of the life cycle of the team that the new CBA is trying to create. They don't want anybody staying at the bottom. They don't want anybody staying at the top for too long. They want to make choices difficult. As you win and role players get paid because you're winning, they want to make you have to send those role players somewhere else and make some difficult decisions. It's why the draft, I think, over the long haul into the new CBA is now way more important, because you have to have a consistent influx of young talent if you want to hope to stay at the top.
Yeah, you now have to do that 2 timelines thing. That's kind of spotty, but everybody should be trying to do it, where they've got guys in the wings that they're developing in the back. But, the interesting thing about all of that is that, like I said, teams prior were not really were like the Warriors talked bad about for trying to do something like that a few years ago. Mm-hmm. But in terms of the Celtics, I mean, they paid all those guys, but they're not going to be the same people filling those checks. They're getting new ownership, so like they don't really care. Like who knows?
That's true.
Who knows how much they're willing to, like maybe they come in and are like, yeah, no, this is just too expensive. We're gonna just sell some guys. So
I mean, it's possible. New ownership tends to come in and be willing to throw the checkbook around, but oftentimes to their detriment. I mean, we saw what happened with the Suns.
Oh, I knew you were going there.
but there was a quote, I can't remember who it was from. There was a quote that went out there today, and it was an NBA owner. And this owner said, the one thing I try to tell new owners is for the first year, don't do anything. Like, because you're learning the ropes. Don't think you can come in with this big checkbook and that you know everything and make a bunch of changes. Don't do it. For the first year, don't do anything. He goes, but honestly, no one has ever taken my advice. But that's probably right. That's probably what a new ownership group should do. Come in and not pay any crazy amounts of money. But you look at the Celtics, they're $18 million over the second tier apron as they currently sit right now next year.
That's just going to get worse.
That's a lot. That's a lot. And they may have to make some uncomfortable decisions, especially if, fingers crossed, the Cavs knock them out this year.
Told you this is not Lakers Nation.
I know.
You can't do that.
I can't not be me. I'm still going to be me.
Oh, man.
Teddy Hart with the $20 super chat. Man, appreciate you. Appreciate you, Teddy. Said if OKC gets bounced early and KD returns there, oh my God, can you imagine how spicy that would be? If KD returns to OKC in the offseason, since OKC has the most assets to give Phoenix, my life would be complete. I don't care how jaded some fans are, a chip or two would be worth it, plus the storyline. Let's say, would it take OKC being bounced early? Like, let's say OKC wins the whole thing. Could Kevin Durant reasonably get traded to the Thunder?
I don't think he could. I don't think in good conscience he can greenlight that.
Right? It would be the Warriors situation all over again, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't think he could in good consciousness. If they win, I don't think he could greenlight that. But if they lose, okay.
The Warriors lost the summer they traded for Kevin Durant.
Yeah, but they were in the freaking finals, and they eliminated Kevin Durant on a 3-1 comeback the round before.
And they set the record for games won in a season. Like that, there was a lot of context to that, right? But if they win the whole thing, I think it would be really hard for Kevin Durant to turn around and go, yep, I'm going to go join up with the Thunder.
The optics would be so bad.
They would be. But could OKC trade for him? Sure, they've got tons of assets.
Yeah.
Obviously, they've got enough to get themselves in the mix for him. You've got movable salaries here as well. I mean, you can build something off Isaiah Hartenstein if you wanted to. Now, obviously, the Thunder don't want to move most of these guys, but you certainly have enough salaries you could stack up to make the math work. Enough draft capital, obviously, to get the Suns interested. And there you go.
Yeah.
How would Kevin Durant be received in Oklahoma City?
I don't know. I'd imagine they'd be happy to have him because he's freaking Kevin Durant. But I don't know if there's still sour grapes from him leaving in the first place. I don't really know. I don't follow them closely enough.
I think there is sour, but I'll tell you what would happen. I'll tell you what happened, Donnie. Is as soon as Kevin Durant, there might be a few fans that would still be, a little bit angry at Kevin Durant, and there would be some that would never let go. But for most, as soon as Kevin Durant started scoring buckets for the Thunder again, they would be okay with it. That's the way it tends to go. Look, when LeBron came to LA, there were a lot of Kobe fans that said, "Oh no, we spent too much time hating LeBron. This is not going to work. We're not happy about this."
Still a lot of Kobe fans that still feel the same way for the record.
Oh, no. There, like I said, there will always be that segment, right? There are some that will never let go of that. But it was probably a 50-50 split when LeBron first came to LA. It is not that anymore. Once the guy starts scoring for your team and you start winning games because of that guy, you start to accept that more. So I think that's what would happen. Maybe there'd be some Thunder fans that would still hold a grudge, but for the most part,
look at always
when he's on the floor, he'd be okay.
Right? He's a Kobe fan still feeling it. See, I told you.
There are, look, that's still a thing. That's still a thing. There would be some Thunder fans who wouldn't be happy. But I mean, there were Kings fans who booed De'Aaron Fox last night.
Yeah.
When he got his what do you call it? The video. Yeah, when he got his tribute video.
Well, I mean, at the same time, like he asked out. Like that's why I said like I'm sure fans would be upset about it. But also like there's always the element of like that's our guy, right? Like we drafted
Sure.
him. He played so many years here, so there's always going to be a division, like you were saying. So I don't know what happens with KD, but I do think if they go out there and they start playing with him, of course, then a lot of fans would kind of at least accept it to where they're like okay with it. They may not love him, but they'll be all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't think he could go there optically if they win. I just don't think.
No, if they win, I don't think he can. He cared enough about the optics to not go. He could have been a Warrior this year at the trade deadline. Like that was legit. That was ready to roll. He said no. That tells you he does care about the optics. He does.
Absolutely. That's also why he left so fast.
Yeah.
He was only there for like what, 4 years?
Something like that.
Yeah, he left.
Can you imagine like had he just stayed?
Was it even 4 years? I think it was like 3 years. I don't know.
They probably win another title.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I think he left after 19, right?
He left. Yes, after the 2019 season, he played 3 seasons for them and then tore his Achilles. Yep.
Yeah. He dipped. So.
Yep. All right, we'll go here. Dober Investment. Would you rather the NBA reduce the number of games or eliminate the preseason and start earlier? I have a preference here. Do you?
Not really.
Okay.
Maybe the number of games, but I don't think that would happen.
That's the thing. It is far more likely that they eliminate preseason, and I think they want preseason to give guys a look, to get some games in. Teams use preseason to push the boundaries in terms of their geographical boundaries and go play games for fans, like we saw the Lakers and Suns played out in the desert, right? In between LA and Phoenix. We see oftentimes teams will go to kind of the outskirts of their region in order to play games in front of fans that otherwise don't get to see that team play. So that's something that teams do during preseason. It's also opportunities to get minutes for players, get guys into a rhythm, not have to just push them into the deep end of immediately you're playing games. But if I had to pick between the two of these, and I don't have, a paycheck attached to it like the way players do, like the way NBA owners do in terms of how many games you have, changing your revenue. I would prefer the NBA reduce the number of games, chop 10 games off the schedule and eliminate back-to-backs. And we're going to get better quality basketball. We're going to get less travel. We're going to get more rested players. You're going to get less injuries. And I also think what you do, you chop 10 games off and then you make an appointment viewing. And by that, I mean, you set your games, certain days, certain nights, certain times, all of that. So just like the NFL where you say, hey, I know every Sunday it might be a noon game. It might be a 3:00 or whatever time the game's at. I know every Sunday I'm going to watch my team. What if you make the NBA appointment viewing as well? You chop off enough games to where you can make a consistent day that your team's playing, or days, I should say. Maybe it's Monday, Thursday, Sunday, or something, or Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. I mean, it would make more sense because we're eliminating back-to-backs. You do something like that, and I think that would also help create a habit of watching your team play. That's something I'd also look to do.
Yeah, but you're also sacrificing all that beautiful money that they keep on getting.
That's
so. With more potential opportunities for fans to tune in, is that a short term? Is that like a long term investment? Like long term, it'll pay off, but in the short term, maybe it doesn't look as good for them revenue wise. But long term,
yeah, you would be trying to get. You're trying to get the long term investment to pay off, but short term, you're right. You chop 10 games off the season, like I'm talking about. That's going to hurt. That's going to hurt your revenue, and that's why it's not going to happen, because players don't want to take less, owners don't want to make less. That it's not going to happen. But I think it would ultimately, if we want to get the best basketball possible, I think it would help the game.
Yeah. That's probably true. What was that number a couple years ago? The minimum number of games they could play was like 60 something a couple years ago when they started a little bit late, but they made sure they started with so many games left.
Yes, right. Yeah, when they started for the COVID shortened season coming after
62 or 65.
Yeah, it was something like that, 62, 65, somewhere in that range. And they did, the games were really, because they started at what? Was
almost Christmas, right?
It was almost Christmas when they started. So they and even then they had to squeeze together a lot of games. But I do think chopping down on the schedule would be overall a benefit to the league. But again, they'll never do it. I'll tell you, you know what? One change that I'd really like to see, Donnie? Move the trade deadline up 2 weeks. That's what I would do.
To make it actually in the middle of the season instead of like the last third.
Yeah, exactly. Because the problem with the trade deadline right now, like the deadline sparks activity. And you could say, well, and most teams would push back and say, we want more time to evaluate where we're really at. I get that. But now what happens is guys get traded at the deadline. It takes them a few days to clear their physicals and all that kind of stuff and actually suit up for their team. Or maybe they don't clear their physical. Shout out Mark Williams. And then what you do is you push it forward a couple weeks so that those changes have time to take effect. Whether you're going to be a tanking team and you want to lose more games, you're trying to go for it and add a piece so you can win more games. It gives you more time to either move up or down in the standings and accomplish whatever your goals were at the trade deadline. I think right now there's not enough runway. Like we had the trade deadline, you play a few games, all-star break, and then it's just a sprint to the end of the season. There's not enough time for those moves to have an impact on the standings, I think.
Yeah, that's probably true. That could be a good, easy thing for them to do, in my opinion. So yeah, maybe they'll look at that.
Master Blaster, baseball is like 200 games a season, not a peep for reducing their games. Look at how much players move in a baseball game. Look at how much standing there is. It's a totally different sport. And that's not to discredit. I'm wearing a Dodgers hat right now, but it's a totally different sport where you can still get high quality play with players playing every day. It's a totally different sport that they're playing. I'm talking about you're going to get better quality play if you eliminate the back-to-backs and all that kind of stuff. Baseball, you could play every day and not be, worn out and exhausted and all of that. I'm not saying there isn't athleticism in baseball. There absolutely is. And there is a fatigue factor for sure, especially when we talk about pitchers and things like that. But baseball is a sport that you can play every day for most of the position players out there. If you're a left fielder, maybe 5, 6, 7 times of a game, you're going to have to really turn it on and sprint in order to get to a ball. And then you get 4 at bats over a course of a game. And if you get a hit, then you got to really run. But overall, are you moving around? Is there that much physical activity that is in every single baseball game? No. And so it's a totally different sport and ability for the guys to compete on a night in, night out basis.
I don't know anything about baseball, but what you said sounds good. So I'll agree with
you. All right, everybody. Well, hey, we appreciate. Get hit by a 100-mile-per-hour fastball in the arm. You'll think differently, though. Oh, look, I get it. Hey, I'm not saying there's not injuries in baseball. I'm not saying. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Look, I'm not saying there's not. I'm not saying there aren't things that can add to fatigue. But I'm saying on a general night in, night out base, if you asked basketball players to play 6 of the 7 nights a week, the injuries would start popping up like crazy because you need that rest. You need that fatigue factor comes into play certainly more than it does in baseball. That's all. Does the NBA have an amnesty for injured players? That was all the rage. Well, you can always waive and stretch a player's salary, but the amnesty thing was more of a one-time thing. Yeah. That doesn't exist anymore.
Amnesty that.
Amnesty that. All right, everybody. On that, we appreciate all of you guys for joining here. Kind of impromptu live show on a Saturday. A lot of things that we got into on today's show. If you have not subscribed to the channel, we are pushing for 20,000 subscribers, which is unbelievable, Donnie. We really got this going kind of back mid-September was when we really started to get going here. And to be right now, here we are early March, and we're on the cusp of 20,000 subscribers. It blows me away. If you haven't done so yet, help us get there. We're on the verge of hitting it. Hit that subscribe button.
Yep. Everything Trev said. We appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for all your support and for rocking with us and helping us grow this all out. And we're going to keep things going. So make sure you do subscribe.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. Till next time. See ya and stay safe.